Y'all, the October challenge is off the chain. We finished week 1. We just started week 2 today, and it is a beast, but we are getting it in, and we are really enjoying Trap and Tone. At least I'm enjoying it, y'all. I feel like I'm getting into the best shape of my damn life with Kiara Lachey. Y'all can sign up for the challenge. You won't be eligible to get any of the prizes, but you can actually get the workouts from going to ifyoucanmove.com and signing up. Okay, tell them that Bondi Blue sent you. Y'all can use my email, bondi.brittany@gmail.com, which is always down below in the description box, along with the link for the website. And also, don't forget to try the TLCT, y'all. NutriBurst, I live by it, okay? Y'all think we be playing, all of the reality stars and everybody be trying to sell y'all the NutriBurst and the tea, and y'all think we bullshitting with y'all. Y'all can keep playing if y'all want to, but y'all see us. Okay, we're getting it together. I ain't all the way there yet, but I'm on my way. I'm better than I was 5 months ago. 6 months ago, child, I'm better than I was this whole time. Okay, so if y'all trying to get in shape, you're trying to start your workout journey, please check out Kiara Lachey and ifyoucanmove.com. And also, if you want to purchase TLCT or any of their products, the NutriBurst, please buy it from me. Link down below. All right. Hey everybody, it's your girl Bondi Blue, and I am back for another Halloween movie review. And this movie review is for Scream 2. If you haven't seen my Scream 1 watch along and review, please don't forget to check it out. There is a movie review playlist available to you guys here on YouTube. So let's go ahead and get into Scream 2. So the movie starts off with a D'Angelo song. I was like, oh, this seems very African American. What's going on here? It's a scary movie. There usually aren't African Americans involved in scary movies. What's this? And then we see Jada Pinkett Smith, that is, and Omar Epps, that is, a black couple standing in line to see Stab. She explains that it's just another dumbass movie with a bunch of dumbass white girls getting their dumbasses cut the up. The horror genre constantly ignores the black experience. We all know this. The commentary during this part of the movie is so prevalent, we didn't even really get involved in horror like that until 2018, 2017, 2020. So like basically 20 or less years later. That's when black people started to be involved in the horror genre in a real significant way. Yes, we've had our Vampire in Brooklyns and our Blackulas along the way, but the real deal is when the black filmmakers are also the ones making the films. Because a lot of the blaxploitation movies weren't made by black people, they were just made with them in mind. Shout out to Jordan Peele. Shout out to you. And all the people from Lovecraft Country. Y'all can wait for that review because it will be coming. Omar and Jada get into the theater, and it is packed with crazy ass people in Ghostface. Everybody screaming and hollering and running around the damn theater like chickens with their heads cut off. I'm like, oh, this wouldn't be the vibe for me. This is not safe. I don't like when I see this many Caucasian people this rowdy. I don't like this. This would have made me nervous. I'd have been like, let's come back during the day. Okay? But no. They sit down to watch the movie. And then the audacity of all these loud ass people in the theater to be mad when Jada tells the white girl, hang the phone up and star 69 his ass, which is what we were all screaming when we were watching this the first time. Just saying. Stab is not the same as what happened in real life. We all know that in the first Scream movie, Casey Becker was at her house popping popcorn, waiting on her old man to show up after football practice. But that's not what happened in this movie. She's getting in the shower for whatever reason. So you know she's naked. And everybody's excited about having a naked woman in a horror film. Shout out to Jamie Lee Curtis. Jada decides to go and get some snacks in the middle of this movie. And she's getting a bad vibe. Looking around, kind of feeling a little scared. While she's standing in line, she hears some girl saying that the movie is based off of real events. Before she walks back inside, Omar pops out and scares her. She doesn't like all of this scary shit, and she wanted to go see the Sandra Bullock movie down the street. And he's like, come on, let's go see the Sandra Bullock movie down the street. And she's like, no, it's okay, we can see this movie. And he's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go use the bathroom. I was like, girl, you should have went and saw that Sandra Bullock movie. He goes to the bathroom, and inside the stall, he can hear somebody on the other side of the stall talking, whispering, as if he's talking to his meat. We're not sure what's happening. But in a very unrealistic turn of events, this black man puts his ear to a dirty ass public bathroom wall so he can hear what's going on in the other stall. We don't do shit like that. I'm not gonna really put my ear on I'm not gonna put my face on this dirty ass bathroom wall. Are you serious? But Omar does it, and he gets stabbed in the damn ear. Back in the theater, Jada is talking to the screen when who she believes is her boyfriend shows up. She grabs a hold of him and looks away from the screen when the character is being killed. Then she sees blood on her hands and is like, where's this real blood coming from? The killer, who she thought was her boyfriend, but he had a ghost face mask on, stabs her right there in the theater in front of all of those people. They thought it was part of the show to watch her stabbed over and over again. And I mean, she got up and walked away from him, and he continued to walk up to her and stab her as she's walking up to the stage. She gets up to the stage, and I think somebody must have realized that it wasn't a game because they took the mask off and everybody gets quiet. And she gets on top of the stage and she goes, ah! And just like that, 2 black people are the first to go in Scream 2. What was that? Like, I almost felt like, you know, we always say black people the first to die in scary movies, and y'all actually showed up second movie, first 2 people to die, very famous black people in the 90s. I felt disrespected. Was it just me? But it also taps into the way Scream likes to bring somebody really famous into the first 10 minutes of the movie and then kill them off. Same thing. Same thing they did with Drew Barrymore. They put Drew Barrymore on the cover of this movie as if she was in it for more than 10 minutes. Sydney is in college and waking up to another crank call, but now she has caller ID. Her perky black roommate comes in and she turns on the TV, and we see Cotton Weary doing interviews about being framed for murder. Her roommate, played by Elise Neal, wants her to go out, but she doesn't want to. Then someone tells them, yo, turn on the news. And the murders at the movie theater is now a part of a pattern. Of course. Sydney knows the killing has started again. We pop over to Randy. Randy's in film class and they're discussing the murders and whether life is imitating art or is art imitating life. Randy has lived through this and feels like life doesn't imitate anything. One of the girls in the class actually had another class with Jada, and she's like, man, this shit is real. That girl was in class with me yesterday, okay? This is not cool. Mickey, the weird, creepy Tarantino film student as described by Randy, insists that it's 2 killers patterning themselves after 2 killers who have been immortalized on film, i.e. Billy and Stu. Randy says, man, look, sequels suck. Nobody asked for this. Name one time when the sequel was better. And everybody starts throwing out names. But Mickey won when he said, The Godfather. I can agree with that. Also, I still know what you did last summer is better than the first one, but whatever. Sydney is waiting outside of Randy's class for him because she thinks that the killings have started again. Randy just wants to ignore it and act like it's not related at all. But no, it's actually quite related, Randy. Then Sydney's hunky boyfriend shows up and Randy gets jealous because y'all know he's the unrequited love of Sidney Prescott. There's a press conference, so you know that Gail Weathers can't be too far away. She's there in a reporter capacity, but people are actually asking her questions as if she's a part of the story and not someone who's there to report on said story. This is when we meet overzealous reporter Debbie Salt, who low-key called Gail desperate. I was like, ooh, disrespectful. Let's pay attention to Debbie Salt. Randy sees her as she's running this press conference. Okay, excuse me, Sheriff, answer my questions, ignore all these other people. None of the kids are happy with the way that Gail exploited the murders, okay? Nobody is a fan of Gail at this point. We all died. We made it out. Then you wrote a book, made millions, and then made a stupid movie so that we can relive those murders over and over and over again. Thanks for that, Gail. Then the sorority Barbie show up. And because Sydney now has fame on campus, they want her to be a part of their sorority. They also shade her simultaneously, saying that they can't believe that all of this fuss is over her. Sid's roommate is also pledging to their sorority, so they come over and invite them to a party they're having later that evening. I'm sure someone will die in the process. Then Sydney sees Dewey and his theme music starts to play. Doom, doom. I love Dewey's theme music. If y'all haven't paid attention, y'all should. It's like old Western music whenever Dewey shows up. I love it. She runs up to him and hugs him because he's the brother that she never had. If anybody's seen Scream 3, then they'll know why I made that look. They catch up, talk about life, and things have been good for Sydney. She's actually got her first starring role in a play, and it's premiering in 2 days. She's also seeing a really great guy with no apparent psychotic tendencies, so things are going good for Sid right now. Nobody needs more murders. Dewey tells her that whoever he or her or them is, she probably already knows them. They're probably already a part of her life. She goes back to the group and her boyfriend asks who that was. You running and hugging people. Who the hell was that? She says an old friend. And then Randy sees him and says, Deputy Dewey. I'm gonna go say hi. Then Gail comes over to Sydney with cameras and Cotton weary, trying to surprise her with some type of interview and, moment of reckoning for Cotton to come face to face with Sydney, the person who accused him of killing her mother. Like, oh my God, you were framed by Billy and Stu. Why do you have to keep stalking Sydney? Please leave Sydney the hell alone. How many times she gonna have to smack you in the face before you realize rolling up on her with a camera without her knowing that you was gonna roll up on her ain't the move, Gail? Cause you always doing it. Once again, Gail can't read a room and gets backhand slapped when she wouldn't get out of Sydney's face with that damn microphone. Elise Neal says, did you get that on film? And then the photographer, who is played by Dwayne Martin, says, yes, I got that on film. They'll later play on All of Us Together. Cotton thought that Sydney knew about the interview and is looking at Gail like, bitch, what is going on here? And Gail is like, look, you're gonna get your interview, okay? Then Gail sees Dewey and rolls up on him. She gets all soft when she sees Dewey. It's less pit bull in a skirt, more pup with a hot puss. Dewey asks her to leave Sydney alone, okay? She's been through enough. They walk and talk, and Dewey is pissed about the way Gail talked about him in her book, making him seem like some dimwit, ignoring the Columbo effect, okay, which is pretending to be stupid so that you can catch folks slipping. She tried to touch him, and he was like he backed away like it hurt. Like, girl, don't touch me. I was just like, damn. Dewey's pissed. She apologizes, but he says that he has some oozing to do because she said that he oozed with ill experience. But he does compliment her on her streaks that were burgundy and black. So a 98, 99, 97 look, for sure. And then Sarah Michelle Gellar, y'all. Buffy is one of the sorority girls, and she's at the house alone when Ghostface calls. And she thinks it's her boyfriend, Ted. She tells him that she's at home alone, and she asks who he's calling for. And he says, what if I say you? She starts to get annoyed because nobody wants to sit on the phone with some creepy ass dude that's calling wrong numbers looking for somebody to talk to. So she hangs up the phone, and her friend was on the other line. So her friend tells her to call campus police. Don't let somebody sneak up on you like that, girl. Now, Buffy ain't no fool, so she didn't ran out to the porch at this point. But when she tries to call campus security, she's too far away from the receiver, so the phone is all staticky. So she has to walk back into the house in order to get on the phone and call the security. Then another one of her sorority sisters shows up and scares the shit out of everybody. So the killer actually gets an opportunity to sneak into the house when she got there. So when the sorority sister is about to leave, the phone rings again and she answers it, and he says it's Ted. So she hands the phone to Buffy. Buffy thinks it's her boyfriend. The girl leaves and she thinks she's safe now. She's like, Ted? He says that she wishes it was Ted. You should set that alarm. So she hangs up the phone and runs to set the alarm. Then he calls again, and by her being frightened by the phone ringing, she gets distracted and he busts out the closet. He chases her up the stairs. On her way up the stairs, she's throwing bikes and shit towards him. It definitely reminds me of the moment on Scary Movie that they were parodying after this scene. Once she gets up the stairs, he grabs a hold of her and throws her through some glass doors. Then he stabs her in the back and throws her off of a balcony onto the pavement like splat. I never said I was innocent. That's the song they played right after her body landed on the ground. It was creepy, but upbeat, which made it even more creepy. At the party, the sorority girls are trying to convince Sydney that they aren't completely vapid. She says they've given her a lot to think about, but it's not her thing. Her boyfriend joins her just when the girls announce that the police are at Omega Beta Zeta sorority house and that something has happened. So everyone runs out of the house over to the crime scene, and Sydney knows the killings have started again. So she stays behind because I don't need to see no more dead bodies. I've seen enough for my lifetime. On the scene, Gail shows up and Debbie Salt is there and she tells her that it's one single girl killed and she has to go. She has to meet a deadline. Okay, Debbie, we see you. Sydney is still at the other sorority house when she gets a call from Ghostface. Why would she answer these people's phone? I don't know. Hey, Sydney, remember me? What do you want? I want you. It's time, Sydney. Then he shows up out of nowhere with a damn knife and he locks her boyfriend outside, so it's just the two of them in the house. He tries to stab her, but they run through the house, knocking over chairs and lamps, and Sydney runs to the back door and finds her boyfriend Derek, who bravely and stupidly runs back into the house and ends up getting sliced across the arm just as Dewey runs up. The killer apparently ran off. But Dewey is looking at the boyfriend like how he got away so quick and why he only stabbed you on the arm. Sydney stands there frozen with tears in her eyes. It's happening again. Yeah, bitch. We've been knowing that since this morning. Sydney goes to the hospital and she tells Mickey that she knew that this was happening again. He tells her that she's not alone. I'm like, who the fuck knows you? Where's Randy? Sydney says that Derek could have been killed. Mickey says Derek wasn't killed though. And why did he run back into the house anyway? Like, what was that about? I'm like, Mickey, how did you know that? Like, oh, they told you that? Oh, okay. Because I'm like, you know a lot. It was real soon after that happened and you wasn't there, so. Derek is being questioned by cops and Dewey about what happened. And Dewey does not believe his story that he just got stabbed and the killer ran off. Nah. The killer will stab until you dead. He don't just slice and dice and run off. Back at the station, Gail draws the correlation between the names of the original murders and the recent ones. Maureen Prescott, Maureen Stevens, Casey, aka Cece. Now Sid has security, walking with her around campus all day, making a scene, which she's not happy with, but what's she gonna do? Derek is sticking by her side, but she thinks it would be better if he stayed away from her. One, to protect her, and two, so she wouldn't have to worry about him eventually looking up, with that crazy look in his eyes all of a sudden, like a switch went off and trying to kill her. Because that happens. That happened to her with her last boyfriend. He asks if she's worried about him being the killer, and she says she just doesn't want him to get hurt. I'm like, yeah, sure, Sydney, sure. You'd be dumb if that was the only thing you was worried about. But I get it. Jerry O'Connell does not give murder vibes. Not on this movie, but in real life. Definitely gives a dandy vibe sometimes, Like I play cool and I look like I'm a complete gentleman, but there might be a body in my basement. Gail is on Dewey's dick a bit, talking about smile, Dewey. He says, I'll smile when we catch the killer, Gail. Okay, get the hell out of here with that smile. Then, as Gail is leaving, Debbie Salt and some other reporters are asking her questions about Dewey and Sydney's dad. Since the murders happened in Woodsboro, it would make sense that the killer would be from Woodsboro. Of course, Gail does not want to hear anybody talking bad about Dewey. Okay, so back off, bitch. In the cafeteria, Mickey is talking to Haley and Derek about Randy possibly being the murderer when Sid comes in and sits down. Child, that's another reason I had to side-eye him. Randy? Why would Randy be the killer? Randy almost died last time. Randy is just not that, I just feel like Randy ain't the type to do all that. Like, that's too much work for Randy. Running around killing all these damn people, that's too much. Sid gives Haley the deets on the security guards. One is married, one is gay. Then Derek says this morning he woke up with a feeling and he didn't know how to deal with it. So he just decided to himself that he'd hide it to himself. This is some white people song that I don't really know because everybody else seems to start clapping and snapping their fingers like they know it. And I'm just like, what is this? And somebody says it's a song from a Tom Cruise movie. And then Derek starts singing on top the tables. I think I love you. So what am I so afraid of? I'm afraid that I'm not sure of a love there is no cure for. I think I love you. Isn't that what life is made of? I was like, people eat on these tables. Why is you standing on top of these tables where everybody eating at? Ugh. The security guards are uncomfortable and everyone in the cafeteria is clapping and enjoying the show. Then Derek gives Sydney his Greek letters and Haley says that he gonna get his ass whipped later on because the brothers are not fans of you giving your old lady your Greek letters. The cafeteria erupts in cheers. It's a romantic comedy horror flick. Randy and Dewey watched Tori Spelling during an interview about her role as Sidney Prescott in the new Stab movie. Sidney actually predicted that in the first movie, so I found that hilarious. The specific scene that we see Tori replay is when she runs into Billy in the hallway and he tells her to get over her mom's death. The way he got over his mom leaving his dad. Foreshadowing. Remember? Just saying, y'all. Whole bunch of little things that point to who the killer is. Dewey and Randy go over who they believe the killer might be. They think about Derek, especially since, his arm got cut and missed every major artery and vein. But it's probably not him. Randy points out Mickey the freaky Tarantino film student. But Randy says that if he's a suspect, then Randy's a suspect, and he's not a suspect. Dewey's like, what if you are a suspect? He's like, well, if I'm a suspect, then you're a suspect. And Dewey's like, point made. Continue on. Dewey asks who else it could possibly be, and they bring up Haley, but probably not her, not only because she's a woman, but because she's a black woman. We don't go this far. It's never this deep unless it's personal. And there's no way for this to be personal for Haley. There were no black people in that first movie. Then Randy suggests Gail. She's vicious. She's an opportunist. Maybe she decided to plan her own sequel. Dewey says no. Okay, Gail may be a lot of things, but she's not a murderer. And I think we can all say that that's pretty much true. Like, come on now. Gail wouldn't do all that, would she? Randy points out that Dewey is obsessed with Gail, and he knows all about that since he is the unrequited love of Sidney Prescott. He has the scars to prove it. Then he asks Dewey about his limp. Like, I thought you got stabbed in the shoulder. He was like, severed a nerve. So no, being stabbed in the shoulder doesn't mean you won't have a limp. Duane Martin, y'all know he's Gail's photographer, has just finished reading her book and is now scared to death to continue on being her photographer now that he's found out that her previous photographer ended up with his throat slashed on top of her news vehicle. She tries to convince him that the story is monumental and she needs him. So he says, okay, let's go get killed. He's gonna stick around for a minute because news photographers love this type of shit. Until they feel like their lives are in danger, then their blackness kicks in and they're like, nope, cutting it right here, buddy, cutting it right here. But he hasn't gotten to that moment yet. We'll wait on it. During Sidney's dress rehearsal for her play, she starts seeing Ghostface popping up around the corners and shit. Everybody is making stabbing motions with their hands. So she actually starts freaking out. And I think they thought that she was acting at first until they realized that she was, really running from everybody and she stopped saying all her lines. So they all take their mask off and look at her as if they're lost. Like, what's going on with her? I'm like, y'all don't know that Sidney Prescott, all them people got murdered in her town last year. Now she's in college and people are getting murdered again and they're saying the two things go together. Why y'all looking at her like y'all don't know why she's scared? Sidney collects herself and runs off stage. Backstage, Derek shows up and apparently Mickey was supposed to pick her up, but here he is picking her up, which makes her wonder what the hell is going on. She's trusting him less and less as time goes on. She tells him that she wants to be alone. He doesn't think that that's a good idea, but she does, and she asks for some distance. He asks if he gets a say in this distance, and she says, no, you don't. He's not happy about it, but he walks away and gives her the space that she's asking for because he doesn't have any psychopathic tendencies. Gail, Dewey, Randy, and Duane Martin brainstorm on who the killer might be. Gail keeps getting phone calls over and over again, and her nerves are bad, so she's smoking a cigarette. And Dewey is like, when did she start smoking cigarettes? And Randy is like, ever since those nudes came out on the internet. I was like, oh, there are Gail Weathers nudes out there. Speak on the sign of the times. Gail mentions that in the previous murders, there were a lot of more murders after the first set. Tatum, her cameraman, a whole bunch of other people. Duane doesn't want to hear about the dead cameraman, okay? But Gail's like, man, calm down. Ain't nobody gonna kill you. They might. Gail's phone rings again, and Randy picks it up this time, and it's the damn killer. He tells them that he can see them. So Gail and Dewey start running around trying to find the person that's talking on their cell phone that could possibly be the killer. And I'm like, why would the person just be sitting out, you know what I'm saying, for you to run up on them? Randy has to keep the killer on the phone, so Randy starts talking shit to him, saying that Stu and Billy were way more original than whoever the hell he is. While Dewey and Gail are chasing people down with cell phones, Randy runs up on a guy that's standing near the news truck, but of course, the guy is not on the phone with him. You know, it's just some random person on the cell phone. And Randy is talking too much shit to the killer, so the killer, who is actually inside of the news van, snatches Randy inside of the news van and stabs him to death, to the point where there's blood leaking from the van. No one could hear him being stabbed to death because some dudes walked past with a boombox. I also thought this was disrespectful, like also some black kids just gonna walk past with a boombox so nobody can hear Randy being stabbed to death. Is that what black people do? Was we walking around with boomboxes in like 98? I don't recall. Maybe 93, but 98, nah. At this point, we got CD players. We ain't walking around with boom boxes and shit. But I digress. Gail and Dewey realize that they can't see Randy anymore, and then Gail sees that the truck's window is broken. So they walk up on the van and open the door and see Randy lying there dead with blood all over the place, and Duane Martin passes out. Sydney is on the other side of campus at the library when her computer freezes up and she gets a message saying that she's gonna die tonight. Security runs up and a new message that says the police can't save you pops up. They usher Sydney to the front of the library, and then out of nowhere, Cotton pops up. I'm like, Cotton, why are you lurking around on this college campus? Show old ass. He's really trying to get this interview with Sydney, okay? But he's over Gail. Diane Sawyer is calling and offering $10,000 each. And he's very desperate to get from under this whole "you killed Sydney's mom" thing. Even though he didn't really do it, you just never really live down people suspecting you of murder. Unless you become famous. And then you can pretty much get away with anything. Y'all, he was like really freaking us out at this point. He's all in Sydney's face and shit. I'm like, are you the killer, Cotton? Like, it made us feel like that was a possibility because he was just doing way too much to physically intimidate her into doing that damn interview. Sydney says between the book and the movie, it's already been enough exposure for her, okay? She doesn't want to do the interview, Cotton. Press. She starts to walk back towards the security guards, and him and his killer boots walk up on her saying how he deserves more than this because he was framed for the murder of her mother. Like, dude, we know. We don't care. Cotton, go on away from us with this. She says, sorry, Cotton, but no. He says she's sorry, all right? She's the sorriest motherfucker he ever seen. He gets loud with her in the library and the security run up on him. And he said that he's not Billy Loomis. Remember, he's dead, Sid. I was like, you're such an asshole. I know, because I was a part of him getting dead. Remember? I was there. You wasn't. Maybe you should watch which married women you decide to sleep around with next time, Cotton. They take Cotton to the police station and question him because now you're looking like a suspect. At this point, Sydney is also at the police station and she's found out about Randy being killed, so she's distraught. She says that it should have been her instead of him. Y'all know Sydney, always wanting to sacrifice herself like all of this is her fault. It's not. It's your mama's fault and the crazy ass white men that you grew up around, obviously. Cotton is screaming about how he's an innocent man, and unless they find him standing over a dead body, they better let him go. Y'all already falsely accused me of killing a bitch, okay? Y'all already did that. Of course they have to let him go because they've already done that. And they don't have anything on him. All he did was get loud with Sydney in the library. He's obnoxious. Might not necessarily be a killer. Cotton sees Gail and he asks her if she's enjoying the show. And she tells him not to do anything stupid. I'm not sure exactly what the hell that was supposed to mean, but short of killing somebody, what else can he do? Then he gives Sydney his card as he's walking out the station. I'm like, oh my God, you are such a thirst bucket. Wants attention so badly. Outside the police station, there are still reporters asking questions, including Debbie Salt. So she runs up on Gail and asks Gail how it feels to know that someone is out there watching and waiting. And then Gail turns on her heels and says, listen, local woman, I know I'm your idol and it must give you some type of pleasure or charge to challenge me, but give it a rest. Duane Martin gives Gail all of the footage that he's gotten thus far and says that he's out. You're not gonna catch him dead in Scream 2. She says, but I need you. And he says, no, you need to get your head examined. And then he gets into a taxi and gets the hell up out of there. Dewey comes limping out And she says she feels really bad. Okay, I feel really bad, Dewey. And I never feel bad about shit, but I feel bad about this. Okay, Dewey, will you forgive me? I want the dick. He asks if this is another brilliant Gale Weathers performance. And she says there are no cameras here, Dewey. She just wants to find this fucker. Then Dewey's theme music starts to play. And he picks up the footage for her and things get a little flirtatious. And she realizes that if somebody's been watching them this whole time, they could possibly be on some of Joel's footage that he's gotten, because he's been filming with them this whole time. So they make a date night of looking for the killer in the crowd in all of the footage. It turns dark at the film school, and Dewey and Gale rush to find a place where they can watch the videos. They find a large classroom with a TV and a VCR all readily available. They bump heads and touch hands, and it's awkwardly romantical while dangerous. They watch some of Dwayne's footage, and he recorded them arguing. Dewey admits he was being rude to Gale, and once again she apologizes for being such a cunt. And while being scared that someone's gonna kill them, they find time to start to kiss and slide on top of a desk, and then Gale takes off her jacket. And then another TV screen pops on, and it's a video of when Jada and Omar got killed, and then when Buffy got killed, and then when Randy got killed. And lastly, it shows the back of Gale and Dewey's heads. So the killer is watching them. That's why they shouldn't have been trying to have sex right now, because somebody's out there trying to kill y'all, and y'all up in here trying to bump nasties in the college classroom. Get it together, Gale and Dewey. That's why y'all keep getting stabbed and shit. Out here trying to bump when people out here trying to kill you. Dewey runs up the stairs after the killer. When he gets up the stairs, there's no one there. And then the killer pops up behind Gale, and she flies across the desk, hits him in the face with a telephone, and runs. Meanwhile, Dewey is flying down the stairs. I mean, not taking it step by step at all. Gale ends up hiding in a radio station, and the killer is right on her heels. So she's moving quietly. She finds herself locked in a room with a glass behind her, not paying attention when Dewey walks up behind her on the other side of this glass. But she can't hear Dewey as he's knocking on the glass and saying, Gale, Gale, Gale. And the killer comes in and stabs Dewey up against the glass. I was like, no, not Dewey. They killed Randy, so we knew that they could have possibly finally killed our boy Dewey in Scream 2. I was scared at this moment, y'all. When I first seen this shit, I was like, no, not Dewey. I really love David Arquette, but never mind. Moving on. Gale watches as he stabs Dewey over and over again, and the blood comes out of Dewey's mouth, and he falls down the glass onto the floor. And she was like, oh, not my man. I didn't even get the dick. Then the killer sets his sights on Gale, and she runs to block the entrance to the door, and the killer is flailing his arm through the door. I'm like, what was that going to do? I would have knocked that shit, tried to break his arm. He tries to break the glass, but it didn't work. So Gale just kind of shrinks down into the corner and covers up her face and her head. And I'm just like, child, I guess I wouldn't be trying to close my eyes when somebody's trying to kill me. But okay. Things get silent, so she looks back up and realizes that he's disappeared. I guess off to kill somebody else since he can't get to her. Derek waits outside of Sydney's dorm to see her before her security team takes her to safety, as if there is a such place. Haley runs up behind her with her luggage because she's my best friend, she's my roommate, and I'm going with her. Like, okay. I'd have been trying to stay as far as possible away from the white girl that seems to have a whole bunch of people dying around her. But, that's just me. Derek says he understands that Sid has to go and he'll wait for her. I'm like, oh, damn, he's trying to be the perfect man for you. Oh, all right. He watches as she drives away, and then all of these creepy men in robes come up in the darkness and tell him that he must prepare to die because he gave up his letters. So it's his frat. He ain't really gonna die. We were scared at first, but it was just his frat. They're about to do some terrible things to him, but he should be alive after it. So we hope. They tie him up in a theater while everybody parties on stage. And he's screaming for Sydney, and they're throwing beer in his face. It's very barbaric and weird. Yeah, that pretty much describes it. Barbaric and weird. Sydney and Haley are in the back seat of the police officer's car and they stop at a red light and the killer punches through the car window. I said, since when are car windows weak enough for somebody to punch through them? I'm just saying, that doesn't usually happen. He must have hit it with something hard. I can't imagine the glass just breaking because you punched it with your hand. He stabs the first officer in the throat, jumps over the roof of the car and kicks the other one in the face, then bashes his head against the back window until he dies or passes out, whichever one happened first. I'm not sure. Sydney and Haley are stuck in the back seat with no way out. One of the cops stands up and says, "Get out of the car, fucker." I guess he wasn't dead, just knocked out. But the killer runs into poles and wrecks the car into a construction site, killing the cop that was on top of the window and knocking himself out. So now Sydney and Haley got to figure out how they gonna get from the back seat with the killer in the front seat and no way out on the side. Sydney realizes that she's gonna have to climb from the back seat of this prison car to the front seat, okay? Because you know it ain't that easy when you're in a jail car to get from the back to the front. So she gets to the front, the killer is still knocked out, but she's scared because any false move could wake this motherfucker up. She accidentally hits the horn, but that doesn't wake him up, but she can hear him breathing as she reaches for the doorknob, but it's locked from the inside. So now she has to crawl through the damn window over him. I was just like, girl, I'd have tried to kill him before I was gonna crawl over him. Like, I'd have tried to stab him in the face, strangle him. I'd have been like, hold this around his neck while I get over his ass. Okay? Hold this around his neck, and then if he move, squeeze tight. But she gets out without him waking up. Now it's time to get Haley out, but the damn doors are locked. I'm like, so y'all can't use none of the damn doors on this car? That's not safe. Haley has to climb over him as well. And she does so. She gets out of the car and they run off. But then Sydney now wants to see who the killer is. I'm like, bitch, when you were sitting next to him, you should have tried to see who he was. Also, why not take the gun from the cop that was on the windshield? Why are we not looking for a weapon when somebody's trying to kill us? When Sydney runs back to the car, she realizes that the killer is gone. And then the killer pops up behind Haley and stabs her to death. Great, Sid. You done got your friend killed because you wanted to run back and see who the killer was. You should have tried to look when his ass was knocked out. Ugh. One more black person dead in this horror film. Let's continue on. So y'all, Gale is running out of the radio station back at the college and runs into Cotton with blood all over his hands. And she suspects him of being the killer, but he says, no, Gale, I found Dewey. Gale runs outside to the payphone where Debbie Soda is on the phone. Gale says that the killer is Cotton Weary and takes the phone from her. Sydney runs back to campus and hears the music coming from the theater. I'm like, you know it's a setup. Why are you going in there? I guess Sydney like, man, I'm tired of this shit. I guess it's time to have the final scene where I kill this nigga. I guess she thought that her theater teacher was in there, but he wasn't. But she went inside. The music dies down, and as she steps on stage, a spotlight is placed on her. Then the set starts to change. Stuff starts to drop. Stuff starts to fly up. We didn't know what was going on. We nervous now. She ends up getting trapped on stage. And then Derek, who we all know was tied up on stage from when his frat brothers were reprimanding him from giving her his letters, he's still there. So they basically just, I guess, pulled the lever so that he was up in the rafters, and when the killer starts to move the set around, he comes flying down, and now Sydney can see him, you know, up there like he Jesus or something, passed out. When Sydney starts to try to untie Derek, the killer reveals himself as Mickey, the creepy, freaky Tarantino film student that Randy knew was the killer from the very beginning. R.I.P. Randy, it's sad you didn't live to see that you was right about this. Mickey says that Derek is his partner, trying to make it seem like it's another Billy and Stu situation. But Derek denies it. I'm not the killer, Sid. I don't know what the hell he's talking about, Sid. Sydney doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know who to believe. Derek says he's gonna kill Mickey, and then Mickey shoots Derek in the heart. And Sydney tries to save him, but what can she do? Shot him in the heart. In the heart. Derek's last words to Sid were, I would never hurt you. Oh my God. That's gotta break your heart to know that somebody was really in love with you to the point that they was willing to die for you, bitch. And they did. And you gonna feel like it's your fault. And that's unfortunate because it's really not. It's Mickey's fault because he shot him in the damn heart. Mickey says that Sydney really needs to deal with her trust issues. Derek was really the perfect guy to bring home to mom if she had a mom. I was like, oh, wow. You want to just be all kinds of disrespectful, don't you, with your bitch ass? Sydney says, F you, as we all would have. Mickey seems to think that this is going to go to trial and that it's going to make him famous. I'm like, what is the deal with people wanting to be famous for terrible reasons? What's wrong with you? Obviously somebody that needs to be in a sanitarium of some kind. Sydney says that he forgot one thing about Billy. And he says, what? She says, I fucking killed him. And then she hits him in the face with the chain with Derek's letters on it and it cuts him across the face. I was like, yes, Sydney, for the one-liners. They fight and run and chase until Mickey pulls out a gun. Someone lifts Derek's body and Gail comes out. And we like, oh shit, it's Gail. But no. Gail has a gun on her, being held by none other than the reporter Debbie Salt. We don't understand why, for what, for where, what's happening here. Why is it Debbie Salt? And that's when Sydney realizes that that is Mrs. Loomis. She's lost a hell of a lot of weight and gotten a makeover. But that's Billy's mama right there. And she is pissed off that they killed her son, Billy. Let's not forget the fact that you abandoned Billy, which is why he flipped the hell out. You abandoned your son. So now you want to show up after he's dead? Word? Seems like you deflecting. You really want to blame yourself, but you're going to try to kill Sydney and Gail to blame them when really it's your fault because you abandoned your son. Apparently, she and Mickey met on a psycho killer website and she paid for him to come to school, gave him a little guidance, and boom, bow. You got you a scapegoat and a partner in a killing rampage. Mickey says he can't wait for the trial. And Debbie says, oh, Mickey, there won't be a trial. And then she shoots him over and over again. And he shoots Gail as he's getting shot. She gets shot in the side. Debbie says, 2 birds, 1 stone. Then she gets into how Mickey was completely out of his mind as she gives us crazy eyes during her monologue. I was like, yes, because he's the only one. She says she's just there for good old-fashioned revenge. And she's going to make it seem as if Sydney shot Mickey and Mickey shot Sydney. Sydney says, you're just as crazy as your son was. Oh, why you said that? Debbie says, bitch, is that a disparaging remark about my son? My Billy? Sydney says, no, Billy was a good boy. He was a saint. You did a bang-up job, Mrs. Loomis. No, I was a good mother. And do you know what makes me sick, Sydney? I am sick to death of people saying, oh, it's the parents' fault. It's all the parents' fault. That it starts with the family. But if you want to blame someone, blame your whore of a mother. She stole my husband. And then you took my son. You don't know what it is to be a mother and raise a child and teach him and guide him. Sydney says, and abandon him? Isn't Mickey supposed to be dead? She looks, and then Sydney hits her in the head with a bottle and runs behind a door. Debbie just starts shooting that shit, okay? Like, whatever. I'm just gonna start busting and hoping that I hit something. She starts shooting some of those ropes that's connected to the set. Then she tries to beat the door down, and then Sydney cuts the light that was hanging up above Debbie's head, and that light is falling down, but Debbie moves out of the way just in time. Oh, that quick crazy bitch. And that mom wig, oh, that wig is something terrible. Then Sydney just starts turning on lights and turning on fog and messing with the wiring. She's just doing all kinds of stuff to try to get herself out of this situation. All the pieces of the set start to fall down and they're falling all around Debbie, and then there are bricks falling all over the place. But she ends up chasing Sydney with a knife. Cotton shows up just as Debbie is pushing the knife down on Sydney's face, and he shoots a warning shot into the air and jumps onto the stage. Debbie uses Sydney as a shield like a crazy bitch. And Sydney says, meet Billy's mother. And Cotton is like, what? He's holding the gun, but he's like, what? Debbie says that she can still help him with his interview. Just let her kill Sydney. And that way he'll be the sole survivor. He'll be the star. She sent you to prison for a year. I think it's rather poetic, don't you? Cotton looks at Sydney and says, I bet that Diane Sawyer interview was looking real good, huh, Sydney? Sydney considers it for a second and says, it's done. And then he shoots Debbie, knocking her down. After, once we believe that all the killers are dead, Cotton says, oh, I would have never really hurt you, Sydney. She's like, give me the gun, Cotton. Then I'll feel safe. Give me the damn gun. He hesitates, but he gives it to her. Sydney picks up the other gun, and Gail pops up. Her ass is still alive. I swear, you can't keep a good woman down, can you? She was probably down there playing dead. Speaking of playing dead, Mickey pops up, and they have to double tap his ass. So she just hits Debbie one more time just to make sure. Right and square in the middle of the eyes. Bow! Make sure you dead, bitch. Ain't no more popping up on me. Then all of a sudden, it's daytime, and the police and the ambulance and the reporters have arrived. Gail goes outside and Dwayne Martin is back. I'm like, so how did you know that the killers were, killed or apprehended? You just showed up the next day like, hey, Gail, I'm back. I'm sorry, baby. I know I said I was scared I might get killed, but I'm not scared no more. Like, how did he know? Like, he must have been not too far away from them. Just as Gail is getting ready to get on camera, Dewey comes out on a stretcher, moving his arms around. So he's alive. Thank God, child. I couldn't watch another Scream movie if Dewey was dead, I'm telling y'all. Sydney is my girl, but I always need Dewey to be a part of it. Gail hops in the ambulance with Dewey, okay, because she loves him. And she does not want to see him damn near die one more time. A crowd of reporters circle Sydney, looking at her like she's the hero, and she throws it over to Cotton. Finally gives him what he wants, some attention. Calls him the hero. Cotton says, hey, there's always a time and a place, but y'all can go ahead and take my card. He says, I'll tell you something. It'll make a good movie one day. All right, y'all. I was like, well, Cotton, you could have been a politician, couldn't you? Child, let me tell you something. A beard will save your life because Cotton Weary and Ray Donovan are the same damn person. And somehow, I don't know if I would ever give it up to Cotton, but I would throw it in Ray Donovan's face like it was a catcher's mitt. But yeah, y'all, that was Scream 2. I hope y'all enjoyed. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you have not already. I love y'all so much. I hope y'all enjoyed these because I enjoy doing them, and I'm going to keep the movie reviews going. Y'all comment down below and give me other movies you would like to see reviewed by moi. Okay, they don't have to just be scary movies. They can be of any genre, any time, whatever. Just comment down below and let me know what you would like to see next. So I love y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Mwah.